Hey everybody. Okay, so here we are. We got our pajamas sewn together. Now we're gonna work on the waistband. So let me show you where I am and how we're gonna go about this. So here's my pajamas. Right? Okay, so what I'm doing now, I have my ruler. I am measuring 1.5 inches. Per the instructions, you are going to measure down from the top of the pants 1.5 inches, and you're gonna mark it. And my fabric is light enough that I can just use a pencil. I'm just drawing a dotted line across. That's where we're gonna fold it to make a casing for our elastic. If your fabric is dark, then you're gonna have to find something to mark with, or you may have to just put some pins in there. You just need to know where to fold it over, which I'm going to show you in a second, and then you're going to press it. So I marked this side with a pencil. I'm going to show you on the other side if your fabric is dark. You could also use a piece of soap. If you have bar soap, you can, if you can shave one side of your bar soap down to make it a sharp edge, you can mark, if your fabric is dark, you can mark it with bar soap and it just washes away. If not, you can trace it with a pin. So I'm measuring here. You just have to be careful not to put your pin through both layers of the fabric. You just want to get it into the top layer of the fabric. Back up a little bit so you can see me. So I am just putting my pin in. I measured 1.5 inches down from the top of the waistband, and I just put a pin in there, and I'm going to do that all the way across. And that'll serve as my dashed line. Just remember, you can't go through both layers. Just go through the top layer, because we need to be able to keep these two layers separated. So, do that again. Anyway, that's what you're going to do, and then you're going to press it. Okay, I'm not going to waste your time with this. I'm just going to mark it with a pencil because it's much faster. But that is another method you can do if your fabric is dark and you don't have a way to mark your fabric so it can be visible. You can use a pin or several pins to pin across, or like I said, if you have bar soap works great and it washes away. Okay. Okay, so I've now made my marks on both sides of the fabric. Now I'm going to come over to the iron and I'm going to press it. I'll bring you with me. See how that works. Very carefully, so I don't knock you over. All right, so I'm just folding the waistband, which is going to be my waistband. I'm folding it back on the dotted line, and I'm going to press that. A lot of times I will also take my ruler, and I will show you right here. Sometimes I will just take my ruler and measure as I go. I will show you this, people. This is where we attached the pocket. Can we see? There we are. This is where we attach the pocket to the side seam, and remember we split this seam open so it would lay flat. Make sure when you fold this over to iron, it is still spread open and laying flat. Okay, let me put you back over here. All right, so I'm gonna keep on pressing. We're gonna talk about the pocket placement in a minute. Let me finish pressing this around. Because when we sew our waistband down, we wanna make sure those pockets fall forward, so you can put your hands in them. If they're going back this way, that won't work. So we have to identify the front and the back, which we will do very shortly. So as you're pressing all the way around, just double check to make sure whether you're measuring with a ruler or you are using your pencil marks. Whatever method you use, just double check all the time, every time you go. Accuracy is important. I'm just going to double check myself. Actually, it looks good. Looks good. Okay, so now that I've got it ironed all the way around, we need to iron one more thing. So we've got the big fold. We also need to then fold in 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to bring you over here so you can see this better. Better, yeah. Okay, so this is our big fold here. We need to fold under 1/4 of an inch, which would be pretty much your serging line. Fold that under, and that's going to lay flat just like this. And then press that as well. So when you're completely finished here and everything is completely pressed, you will not see the serging line of your waistband at all. That will all be folded under and pressed. So it's all tucked away and clean looking. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm almost there. Almost. Okay, so I'm gonna move you back over here. All right, so here's where we are now. We have the waistband pressed. What I need to do now is identify where the front of my pants and where is the back of my pants, because I need to make sure my pockets are moving in the right direction. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, we're gonna look at the crotch length. So with the waistband together at the top, and I'm pulling straight down from the waistband to the bottom of the crotch. The shortest side is the front, okay? So I can tell you right now, the side I'm looking at right now, this is the front of the pants, because the crotch is right here. This is where the two crotch pieces meet. So this is the shortest side. The other side is longer because it's coming from the waist all the way around and wraps underneath, comes around to meet here on this side. So this is the shortest side, this is the front. That means my pockets need to go, they need to lay so that they are facing that center front. This is the center front seam here. This pocket's gonna face this way. This pocket's going to face this way too. So they're all, both pockets are facing in this way. This is my center front. All right, so let's pin that now. So what we're pinning, let me pin center front first. I'm pinning center front through the seam. Right. So I just pinned this. I'm just pinning one layer. I'm not pinning through the back of the pants. I'm just pinning the front of the pants. This is just to keep everything in place so that I can sew without it moving. All right, so I'm going to travel out to the side seams now and just pin it in place. Before I pin the pocket, I want to make sure it's really lying flat. So I'm going to go right to the side seam and pin the side seam in place. All right, so let's see if we can get a shot of that. Okay, so here's my side seam. You can see this is where the pocket was attached. I just want to make sure this is all smooth here. Where the pocket, top of the pocket is lying underneath the waistband. So we want to make sure this is nice and flat. All right, so let me finish pinning that. Great. Okay, so I'm going to show you that. I've got, what I have pinned now is from the side seam here where the pocket is attached. Here's my pocket. So from the side seam I have pinned all the way over to my center front seam. Okay, now I'm going to pin the other side and get that pocket to lay nice and flat. I'm going to start at the side seam this time. So here we are. Here's my pocket. This is the side seam where the pocket is sewn down. So I'm going to pin that right now. Pin that in place. And then I'm going to just smooth this fabric out, make sure the pocket is lying nice and flat. Pin the waistband there. And all the way over to meet the center front like I did on the other side. Great. Okay, so I'm going to show you the whole front now. The pocket's pinned in place. Well, there we are. So you can see pockets are pinned in place. Now we can flip it over and pin the back of the waistband, which is easier because we don't have to fool around with any pockets at all. You can start pinning anywhere you wish. I always pin the center back seam first and then work out towards the side seams. So make sure as you pin that 1/4 inch that we last pressed underneath, make sure that is actually still underneath. You should not see any of your serging on your waistband now. The serging has been folded and tucked underneath 1/4 inch. And remember, 1/4 inch is actually the same width as your serging. All right, so we're all pinned here. I'll show you that real quick. So that's the back of the pants, and the front of the pants. Notice they are not pinned together. Okay. All right, now that is step number 6, part of step number 6. So what we're going to do now is we're going to top stitch at the top of the casing. So up here, we're going to top stitch. This should be close to the edge. If you want to, yeah, it needs to be close to an edge. Let me explain why. You have your elastic, whether it's white or black, it's 1 inch wide. That elastic needs to fit inside this waistband. So if your top stitching is huge and not close to this edge, but somewhere in here, your elastic is not going to fit. So as we top stitch, you want your top stitch on this edge to be close. Then you have to top stitch on this edge, and that needs to be close to the edge. So let's give it a whirl. All right, we're going to do the top edge first, and then we're going to do the bottom edge. So for the top edge, you can, looking a little lopsided here, you can stitch all the way around. Okay, I'm going to start in the center back. Just looking at my top stitching to make sure I got enough room. You can do that as well as you're sewing around that waistband. Put your elastic up there and just kind of gauge whether your top stitching is too big. You're going to be able to fit that elastic into your casing. Kind of important. I was just checking inside to make sure I'm at a side seam now. I wanted to make sure that my seam allowance was still laying flat open like a book. So remember, for your top stitching, you can use your stitching width dial. Dial it to maybe number 2, number 3. I'm not really sure. Each machine is a little different. But you can look at that. But use your stitching width. And then if you run the edge of your pajama pants right in that crook of your presser foot, if you run it right through the middle, but offset your needle using your stitching width dial, then you should have a really nice top stitch there. That's a really handy feature that's on that sewing machine. I really like that. Okay, I'm back all the way around. Back stitching. All right, so that is done. I will show you. Can you see that? I don't know. I can't even see it myself. But anyway, it's top stitched. Can you see it? I think so. I think you can see it. But anyway, that's top stitch. I did it all the way around. Now my next step is, I'm going to start center back again. My next step is sewing the bottom of the casing, right? So I just sewed around the top of the casing here with a top stitch. The next step, I'm going to sew around the bottom of the casing. The important thing here, we cannot sew it all the way around completely. We need to leave an opening because we have to feed the elastic in. So we're going to sew this first. I'm going to sew along, and I'm just going to leave this open from here to here on either side of my center back seam. And again, you want to be close to the edge. And I don't think that little trick with the stitching width is going to help you here because you're sewing on the other side of the presser foot. So you'll have to figure out another thing. Another method, but you'll figure it out. Find something on your presser foot to align that folded edge. Let me see if you can see. It's kind of hard to see anything, but I'm lining up my folded edge here with the inside of this presser foot. So there are lines on your presser feet. That might be something that you can line this folded edge up with to get a nice straight top stitch there. It's tricky. Oh, here's a thought. You also have a needle positioning wheel, which is in the middle of the sewing machine up here. You could put that needle position all the way over to the right and then use your width dial to move it over a smidge. Anyway, play around with it and see if you can figure it out. You've got the tools there. You just have to do a little exploring. So as I'm sewing right now, I'm sewing down the pocket. You can see the pocket. Here's my pocket. I'm sewing over the waistband area where the pocket is stuck up under there. You want to be really careful when you're sewing here to make sure that pocket is still laying flat and not bunched up somewhere or falling out. You should have pinned that down so that pocket doesn't have a chance to move around, because it will. But just be able to recognize that that's got to be nice and flat. So I'm pretty happy with that. That's nice. Also, I'm going to bring your attention to, this is my center front seam. Yep, center front seam. Make sure this is laying flat open like a book. Make sure all your seam allowances are what they should be. Okay, continuing. Going over the other pocket now, so again, make sure that everything's flat in there. Heading back to center back. Remember, we don't want to close it all the way up. We're leaving it open just on the outsides of that center back seam. All right, so let me show you where we are, where I am. Okay, so I started sewing here on the bottom and I finished somewhere right here. So I sewed from here to here. This is open because that's where I'm going to stick my elastic in. Indeed. Okay, so you should have gotten a piece of elastic. If you haven't, you'll have to get a hold of me. What we're going to do now, I did not tell you you need a safety pin. I hope you have a safety pin somewhere. It doesn't matter what size it is. The little baby ones might be a problem. It has to be a pretty sturdy safety pin. The safety pin we use is a bodkin. A bodkin you use it, push it through your casing to drag your elastic through. So, let me make sure I got the right elastic here. I've got two different sizes. And I didn't. Good thing I checked. Okay, so this is the elastic that I want to use for these pants. So I have attached the safety pin to the elastic. Don't put it real close to the edge of the elastic because sometimes it will fray and the safety pin will fall out. Okay, so now I'm going to feed my elastic into the casing with the safety pin. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to push that safety pin around and pull the elastic in. Some of you guys may already know this trick. This is like kind of a standard way to go about feeding a lot of stuff in. If you're drawstring fell out of your hoodie or something silly, or the drawstring fell out of your sweatpants, or it's a real nice way to put things back in. Okay, so what I'm doing now, I want to make sure this elastic stays flat. We don't want it to twist, because then you'll be stuck with twisted elastic. That's not comfortable, not attractive. I'm just going to keep pushing the elastic through and pulling it. Be careful when you get to the end of your elastic. Well, I'll show you when we get there. The elastic is going to be shorter than your waistband. So just know that you can just keep pulling it and pull it all the way through before you reach around with your safety pin. Okay, so I want to show you something right now. Oh, hang on a minute. I have come up to my center front seam, and when you try to pass that safety pin through, you may run into a little pocket of your seam allowance. Back up the safety pin and kind of fold or squish your casing so it's kind of rounded, and then try to push the safety pin through, because you can kind of get stuck under here, but you want to create a passageway. So if you make a little tunnel, you can usually get your safety pin to go through, which I did. So I'm going to keep going. See where I'm always looking back here to see where the other end is. So far we're good. Okay, so you can see right here she's starting to curl up a little bit. I don't want it to do that, so I'm going to rotate the elastic to get it to lay flat again, and I'll keep going. All the while, I'm watching back there to make sure my elastic doesn't sneak inside the pants all the way, because we don't want to do that. So I still got a little bit left there. I have reached the other side by the pocket, and you know what I'm going to do right now? I am going to, I'll go a little bit further. I'm going to put a pin in there so it can't sneak through. Okay, so here we are now. I'm very close. That is about as close as I want to be to losing my elastic. So I'm going to pin through the elastic and pin through my pant so that it cannot pull through, because that would bum me out. Then I'd have to start over again pulling the elastic, and I don't want to do that either. So I'm going to finish going. This is exciting. I almost have pants here. Pants that'll actually stay on. Okay, so I have reached the other end. I'm going to pull the elastic through with my safety pin, and I'm just going to leave it like that. The rest of it, the waistband is going to be all bunched up in areas. That's okay. What you want to make sure right now, look at it well and make sure none of it is twisted. That elastic should be flat. The fabric can be gathered around it, but it has to be flat. All right, so here we are. What we have to do now, what you should do, is pin your elastic together. I'm going to pin the two pieces of elastic. Here's the two pieces. I'm going to pin them together, and then I want you to go try your pants on. Make sure the length of elastic that you have pinned together right now, I want you to make sure that's correct. Okay, I've got about an inch overlap. Actually, I'm going to pin it like this. I'm going to overlap them on top of each other. Okay, so here's one end, here's the other end. I'm just putting one end on top of the other. So you can see that they overlap like this. Okay, and then I'm just going to do about an inch overlap on both of them, because I cut my elastic pretty darn accurate to my waist size. And I'm going to pin that in place so you can see the overlap. Now I want you to go try them on. Okay, so here you are. Pull the elastic around, move the elastic around. You can still see the safety pin wants to sneak inside, but I'm not going to let it. Go try them on and make sure they fit. Okay, so once you know that they fit, then we're going to move forward. So here we go. I know mine fit because I know my elastic is the right size. So I'm going to pull it back out again because I need to get this bit of elastic underneath my sewing machine, right? I'm going to take my safety pin out because I cannot sew over a safety pin. And I'm going to put a pin in. I'm going to put a pin in like so. And I'm going to sew across my elastic this way. And I'm going to do it down, I'm going to do it back up again. Essentially one giant back stitch. So I've just gone all the way down. I'm going to go back up it. Cut my thread, pin out. Now I'm going to let the elastic fall right inside where it wants to go. And I'm just going to stretch my pants to move the fabric all the way around so it's evenly spaced around. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. All right, so now we still have this opening here where we snuck our elastic in. So what you're going to do is smooth that fabric out so it's flat. And you're just going to take your sewing machine now and just sew from where you left here and where you left here and just close that opening up. I'm going to make sure your elastic is out of the way. I'm going to do that right now. You may have to give your pant waistband a little stretch to get it to lay flat, but you can do that. A little wrestling, but you can do it. So this is now completely closed up. I'm going to cut my threads. Please, when you turn your pajama pants in to be graded, make sure your threads are trimmed. That is an automatic points deducted for sloppiness. I should never see threads hanging off of a garment. Nobody wants to see that. So I have cleaned it all up. So this is the seam I just closed up. It's great. So my elastic is good. I'm happy. All right. So that is done. We move on to the pant legs. My suggestion to you, put the pants on and have somebody mark where they hit the floor. Where they hit the floor is most likely where you need to turn them up. So if once you mark it, I'm going to hem mine up an inch. So if I marked it and my pants hit about an inch from the floor, let's say roughly right about here, I'm going to do the same thing I just did on the waistband. Actually, you could probably do this first. Press up where your serge line is first. That's your 1/4 inch. Press that all the way around, and then press up wherever you marked your hem to be. So my hem is going to be about an inch. So I'm going to do this. See if you can see that. So I did my 1/4 inch. Pressed up, and then I'm going to fold that over where I marked my hem, and I'm going to press that all the way around. Then I'm going to top stitch on this edge here. I don't have to top stitch on this edge like we did on the waistband because it's not a casing, it's just a hem. I just need to top stitch right here. So I'm going to press this one. I'm going to do one leg. You don't need to see me do two legs. And then you will be done with your pants. It's very exciting. Okay, so I'm going to press this. My iron is not hot. So I'm starting by pressing the serged edge of the fabric. Let's see if you can see the serged edge. I'm folding back and I'm pressing just the serged edge. My iron's not really hot, but this is why I miss the shop. Miss my sleeve board because boy, would that be handy now. I could put this pant leg on the sleeve board and go to town. Make sure as you're pressing around the hem of your pant, your seam allowances on your inseam and your outseam stay open. Okay, I'm almost done here. Okay, so let me show you where'd it go. There it is. So I have now pressed the serged edge up. You can see that on both sides pressed up. Great. So now we're going to do one more press. And I'm going to do mine at 1 inch like I told you. I'm going to use my ruler. Let me back you up so you can see. Perfect. Use my ruler. Method number 2. And I'm just going to measure 1 inch with my ruler and I'm going to press that. You could also mark it with a pencil if you wish. Please try to be as accurate as you can. Okay, let's measure this. There's 1 inch. Great. I know this takes a bit of time, but it's worth it. Trust me. Your clothing should be just as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside. I am just about there. We're looking real good here. Sounds like I'm out of water, but I think I'm okay because I think I am done. Okay, so I have this pressed now. I'm going to go and pin it in place. And then I'm going to sew it. All right. Pinning in place. I'm starting at the side seams to make sure that my fold is accurate on the side seam. I'm going to pin it in place. I'm going to measure it one more time to make sure it's actually an inch all the way around, because it's important. I'm just looking at the clock on the video, and I've spent just about the same amount of time doing the waistband and the hem of the pants as I did on the construction. This is just more time consuming because you have to press it, you have to measure it. Okay. So I'm off by a smidge right here, so I'm not going to be happy about that. I'm going to, sorry people, I'm going to back it up a little bit because I just really want it to be accurate. I was off by almost 3/8 of an inch. That's a lot. Unacceptable. But if I expect it out of you, of course. Perfect. Back this one up a little bit too. Looking good. Okay, we're off a little bit down here too. Sometimes things go awry when you iron. Things get pushed. So it's always good to double check. Great. Back this up just a smidge too. Okay. And double check one more time. All right, I feel pretty confident. So here's what I have, everybody. We're pinned the hem all the way around, and now I'm going to top stitch. I'm top stitching. I'm top stitching this edge right here. Not this edge, not the bottom hem, but this right here. Again, you want to be close to the edge. whatever distance you top stitch on one leg, please use the same amount on the other leg so that when we look at your pants, when you're wearing them, the hem doesn't look like it's been sewn in 2 different places. Kind of important as well. So whatever guide you use on one leg, use the same guide on the other. And of course, if you do a 1-inch hem on one leg, you better darn well do a 1-inch hem on the other leg, so one's not shorter than the other. That would look silly. Okay, I'm all the way around. Successfully all the way around. I am very happy with that. It looks great. Oops. All right, so there we are. If you can see the stitching line or not, I'm not sure. The lights, there's a lot going on with this plaid. So that's what I have on this side. You're gonna go ahead and do the other leg just like you did. I'm gonna turn it right side out. So here's the pant leg hem from the right side of the fabric. I'm very happy, looks great. All right, people, that's it. That will finish your pajama pants. If you have any questions, text me. We'll talk about it. We can FaceTime or Zoom or whatever if you're confused on something. But other than that, you're ready to go. Okay, have fun.